Growing up, sausage and mash was on pretty heavy rotation at home, and it was one of my favourite meals to eat, especially when it's made with good quality butcher sausages. But now I'm older, I have the skills to make my own sausage. So today I'm going to make up some super high quality traditional English butcher's sausages, which is going to be an all pork sausage. So what I've got here is a deboned and rind removed pork shoulder. It's pretty scraggly because I did it myself, got it from my local butcher, and this was always going into sausage, so it didn't need to be tidy. Pork shoulder is going to be perfect because it contains a nice amount of fat already. So I'm just going to cube this up into pieces small enough so that it will fit through my grinder. So all of that pork shoulder is cubed up nice and small. Just this pork shoulder alone is probably going to have enough fat in it that I don't need to supplement it with any extra fat. However, because I anticipated that it would be lean, I picked up some pork belly strips or pork belly slices just from my local supermarket. And although I don't think it needs the extra pork belly, I think I'm going to use it anyway just to make more sausages. And these don't really need cubing up, they'll go straight down my grinder hopper pretty easily. So now we've got all our pork ready. I'm going to weigh it up so I know exactly how much spice to add. And the exact recipe for these sausages will be in the description below, and it will be in percentages, just like you would use for pizza dough. That means you'll be able to take the recipe and scale it up or down depending on how much meat you have. And if you don't already have a set of scales in your kitchen that measures in grams, then just go and buy some. So that's all our pork chopped up, ready to go into the grinder. It's weighed out at 3,075 grams. This can go back into the fridge or freezer if you have space to keep cold before we grind it. In the meantime, we'll get our spices weighed out. So I weighed up all of my spices based on how much sausage meat we had or how much pork I had. And I'm gonna go for a pretty traditional middle of the road sausage. I really don't like sausages that are overly herby, so this is gonna contain more spices than anything else, but we'll have a little bit of sage in there. And I'm gonna throw in some cayenne because I think it works really well in this type of sausage. So we're gonna make up our spice mix in here, which is also gonna contain rusk. We're gonna add some water to it. That's gonna kick off the hydration process. Rusk is a traditional binder slash filler for English sausages. It's going to be the thing that helps bind the sausages together. It's going to help to retain some moisture, but it's also the thing that gives British sausages their unique texture. You can make classic English sausages without, but I personally think it's better with. So in this case, I'm using it as an ingredient rather than just filler to make the sausages bigger. Rusk tends to get a bad rep, but in my opinion, it's essential. So we're going in first with our pinhead rusk. Then we'll go in with some nutmeg, some white pepper, some mace, some ginger, some onion powder, some coriander, freshly ground black pepper, some sage, some cayenne pepper, and some salt. So we're gonna add some weighed out water to that. Get that all mixed round. This can go into the fridge. And we'll get on to grinding up our pork. So quite different from my usual sausage recipes. I'm going through quite a fine die. This generally isn't a coarse sausage. So now that's all been ground through nice and fine, we're gonna get our spice mix. It's now nice and crumbly, and we're just gonna mix that all together. So at this point, you could do a fairly light mix and put this back through the grinder to really disperse it super evenly. But I find that I much prefer just a single grind. And although this isn't a coarse sausage, I do want a little bit of texture in there. So just go through and make sure all of that rusk and spice is dispersed evenly. And I think what I will do is just add a little bit more water. The water that I added at the start was only 5%, so I think I'll go another 5% and bring the water up to a total of 10%. That is looking well bound to me. So we now need to case this up, and whilst I get my stuffing equipment ready, this can go back into the fridge. Every single time I'm not doing something with it, it's gonna be in the fridge, keep it nice and cool. We don't want any of those fats to start to melt. So I'll put this back in the fridge and get my sausage stuffer ready. Get this in and pack it as tight as we can. It smells great, it smells very fragrant. You can definitely smell the mace, the nutmeg, the ginger. Now we're going to take some hog casings, some natural hog casings, and I'm going to go with a slightly different linking approach to what I normally do. This is going to be quite different from your traditional Texas style hot link. I'm not really too fussed about a particularly plump sausage or a firm sausage. I'm not really looking for a snappy casing. So rather than linking these one by one as they come out, I'm going to turn this out to one long length and then link them like a butcher would. They're still going to be firmly packed, but I'm not too worried if they're a little loose. Just going to help this casing stay on tight. And then I'm just going to turn this out to a manageable length. If it's too long, it'll be difficult to work with. And also if I stuff it too tight, I'm going to find it difficult to twist them into links. I think that length should do. I'm going to find the halfway point, give it a twist, get the length of my sausages, something like that. Give those a twist together, and then take one of my lengths, go through the hole, Get the size right. Twist them together. Pull it through and just keep going like that. Much easier to show you this like this. Get the length that you want and squeeze it. Wrap those two together, end, and just go back through. When you get to the end, you could just tie them together. And there you go, some actual links. Managed to get 22 individual sausages out of that 3,000 grams, which is good. They're looking really nice. And this little guy was the last one to come out of the hopper, so I thought I'd cook him up. Just wanted to get a taste test on it. But this is not ideal. These need to go into the fridge overnight. They need to set up, they need to firm up. Those protein strands that came out when we binded it will need to reset, join together, firm up, and that's gonna give us a much better sausage quality at the end. So these are gonna go into the fridge overnight. We'll come back tomorrow and cook them. Also, if I had a hook, I'd be hooking these up and hanging these, but I don't, so they're just gonna go onto a tray. So our sausages have been resting in the fridge, firming up overnight. But before we get to grilling them, we're gonna make up a nice rich onion gravy and an incredibly luxurious mashed potato. So to make our onion gravy, I'm gonna take a mild sweet onion and a red onion. And we're just gonna slice these nice and fine. Doesn't really matter how you slice them. You could go end to end or just like this, like I'm gonna do. But we want to slice them nice and thin. And I was wondering earlier, for the Americans that watch this channel and that will watch this, are they aware of onion gravy? Does it exist over there? Do you guys eat it? Or is this a very British thing? Let me know. But yeah, onion gravy is something that's traditionally served with sausage and mash. So we'll get these into a heavy bottom pot. Go in with a big knob of butter, a good amount of salt. That's going to draw some of the water out of these onions and get them sweet nice and quickly. Get this onto the heat. And we're just gonna get these onto a nice low medium heat and slowly start to saute these, slowly breaking them down, bringing out that sweetness. So that's gonna be about as caramelized as I want it. Turn the heat up a little bit, deglaze with a little red wine. Reduce that down, deglaze the pot. Once that's pretty much all reduced, we're gonna go in with some flour and cook that flour out. And once that flour's cooked out, we're gonna go in with a good amount of high quality beef stock. Give that a good stir, deglaze the pan again, bring that up to a low boil and go in with a big teaspoon of whole grain mustard. So what I'm looking for here is something more like a demi-glace than a traditional gravy. I don't like my sausage and mash swimming in gravy, but I want the flavor to be there. So I'm gonna reduce this down to the point where it's really flavorful, but you don't need loads of it. Once it starts to get to the consistency that I like, I'll adjust for salt, I'll add black pepper and some balsamic vinegar just for some bright, fresh acidity. But for now, we'll just let this simmer away and reduce. So this is nice and thick, really reduced. All those onions have practically broken down, which is good for me because I don't like chunky onions in my onion gravy. It's really just all about the flavor for me. And now we're gonna freshen this up with a little bit of balsamic vinegar and some freshly cracked black pepper. That is looking very good to me. Don't need a lot, it's gonna be intense. So this can just hang out while we make our mashed potato. For this mash, I'm just gonna be using Maris Piper potatoes. I think if you're in the States, maybe Yukon Gold is the one to use. Pieces like that into a pot. So we've got all our potatoes cut up, and then I'm gonna take about half the amount of potatoes in butter. So it's about a 2-to-1 ratio of potato to butter-ish. Put that on the hob, start to melt that. Hit these potatoes with salt, cover them in water. Bring those up to a boil so they're nice and tender. And then here are our sausages. Looking very good, they've been resting in the fridge overnight. And now you can cook these however you want. Most of these will probably end up getting cooked just in a pan in the kitchen for breakfast or dinner or whatever. But you could throw them into the air fryer, into the oven. But because this is a barbecue channel, I'm gonna go and grill them outside on the weather. But first, you need to snip them apart. You can vacuum seal these, freeze them, give them away. Gonna pick a couple of big ones and get them cooked up. So we'll get these on, and I'm really not looking for this to be absolutely ripping hot right now. I just want to get some nice color, some grill color on either side. And once we've got that grill color, we'll move them over and cook them indirect. Potatoes are done, they're just draining. Gonna let the steam come off for a little minute and then get our potatoes into our ricer. This is gonna produce super smooth mashed potato. This is also good because it doesn't overwork the potato. So you're less likely to get a gluey texture. Then we'll go over the top with our melted butter, pinch of salt, some white pepper, and just mix all of that round. and you have some super smooth, delicious, buttery mashed potatoes. Pop a lid on that and that will stay warm until our sausages are cooked. So sausages are at a nice, safe internal temperature. Who am I kidding? That's better. That's a lot of sausage. And then our onion, red wine, and mustard gravy. That is not a bad looking plate of sausage and mash. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Try one of these sausages. Nice bind on there. Those are excellent. Really well balanced. You can taste all the spices. Very, very small amount of herbs, which I'm glad about. But yeah, the nutmeg, the mace, the ginger, the cayenne, a little bit spicy, very soft. The 2-to-1 ratio on potatoes to butter, plus putting them through the ricer, makes the best mashed potato ever. That onion gravy is just insane as well. So intense. Very, very good. If you've never had onion gravy before, I'd highly recommend trying it out. It is the ultimate gravy for sausage and mash. Yeah, not big chunks of onion as well. I don't like that. When I was younger, my mum used to have big chunky bits of onion that weren't 100% cooked down, and I always kind of left them to the side, but slice them nice and thin, saute them until they're almost virtually gone, and you just get little tiny bits of onion all throughout the sauce. That is very good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I make traditional butcher style sausages. Just really high quality pork. Use that Rusk to get that traditional English sausage texture, and then a nice balanced spice mix. Make them and then make some sausage and mash. So thanks very much for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed it. It really, really, really does help me out. And I'll see you next week for another video.